Hi, and welcome to Stuff of the Week, where I go over all the reading, viewing, and collecting, and I don't know what other stuff I got up to during the second week of February in the year of our mythical Lord 2026. This week I'm gonna start with the newspaper ads. So, February 9th, which was Monday, but in 1972, getting into the Wayback Machine, When Dinosaurs Ruled the Earth was poised to open. This was one of four prehistoric fantasy films produced by Hammer, and it is the only one I have seen from start to finish. It's an entertaining little piffle that not only shows dinosaurs and humans coexisting, but that also postulates the moon was birthed from the area that would become the Pacific Ocean. Okay. Also February 9th, but in 1997, the new Clint Eastwood movie is going to be opening on February 14th, Valentine's Day. This is Absolute Power. Eastwood plays a master thief who witnesses the Secret Service shoot and kill a woman that was defending herself from unwanted sexual advances from the President of the United States, who was played by the late, great Gene Hackman. Shenanigans ensue. While not all that great, Absolute Power is also not all that bad. It's an entertaining diversion, elevated by its star director and the top-notch cast he managed to gather together. Yes? Come here. What is up with you, huh? What is up with you, Sam? Mr. Yowler. Okay, February 10th, 1991. And Nothing But Trouble is about to be unleashed on an unsuspecting and ultimately disinterested public. While I did have a morbid curiosity about the film when it crashed and burned at the box office in the early months of 1991, I did not see it until it was on home video. And, well, all I can say is Nothing But Trouble is an utterly bizarre and bonkers horror comedy. Think of it as National Lampoon's House of 1,000 Corpses. Really. It tries, and I think fails spectacularly, at being something very weird and very different. Outside of Dan Aykroyd, who wrote and directed, I think only John Candy and the late John Candy and the late Taylor Negron seem to understand the assignment and roll with it. Chevy Chase and Demi Moore both seem stiff and embarrassed about being in the movie, and I don't really blame them. But all that being said, I do revisit the Mr. Bone Stripper scene every now and then. Also February 10th, but in 1925, here we have an ad for an issue of Liberty, which, according to Galactic Central, was a competitor for the better known and better remembered Saturday Evening Post and Collier's magazines. February 11th, in 1970, a few days before Halloween, double feature of Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed and Dracula Has Risen from the Grave is opening in a select area, Bay Area theaters. Considering the amount of tampering pre-release that was alleged to have been done on Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed, I was surprised to read that when asked which of his own films were his favorites, that Terence Fisher, and actually let me pull this out, in an interview that was published in the Volume 4, Issue 3 of Cinefantastique magazine, said that Frankenstein Must Be Destroyed was one of his favorite movies. That of all of his films, it was the one he most enjoyed making. Which kind of contradicts some of the lore I have heard about it. There was a last-minute decision to spice up the film with a sexual assault that, according to an interview with Veronica Carlson that appeared I think, in Fangoria magazine, had both Peter Cushing and Terence Fisher apologizing to the actress throughout the filming of the scene. Another ill-advised last-minute inclusion was the comedic investigation carried on by an Inspector Fursh, played by Thorley Walters, who had appeared in Frankenstein Created Woman and several other Hammer films. And one could excise both the assault and the Fursh scenes from the film and be left with a tighter, leaner, and I believe far better paced movie. My favorite Hammer Frankensteins remain The Revenge of Frankenstein and the aforementioned Frankenstein Created Woman. Dracula Has Risen from the Grave is the middle section of Hammer's trilogy of direct sequels to Horror of Dracula, or Dracula in the UK or European markets. And while it was an interesting and entertaining enough follow-up, a direct follow-up, picking up right where Dracula Prince of Darkness left off, I didn't like it as much as Dracula Prince of Darkness, and I actually prefer the film that picks up where this one ends, which was 1970's Taste the Blood of Dracula, which actually kind of like completes the only like linear direct sequel. It goes Horror of Dracula, Dracula Prince of Darkness, Dracula Is Risen from the Grave, and then Taste the Blood of Dracula. Those are the only ones that have like a direct linear connection. This does have an interesting concept that I wish had been handled better, because the protagonist is an atheist, and I thought there was a really great chance to have a pretty intelligent discussion versus belief and non-belief, but they took a much more tiresome route that really kind of baffled me. I would have liked. I think it could have been handled differently and better. But it's not that bad of a movie. But I do find it a little on the slow side, and it does test my patience at times. February 11th. Let's see, 1925. And hello. And we have this ad announcing that the Hearst International and Cosmopolitan magazines have merged and become one. And this ad also hypes the starting of the serialization of Mary Robert Reinhardt's new mystery novel, The Red Lamp, which was also published as The Mystery Lamp. Now, this is an old dark house mystery. Excuse me. The synopsis on Goodreads makes the book sound perfect for me. It says, inheriting an isolated lakeside estate that is shrouded in ghost stories, skeptical William Porter and his wife are astonished when they are beckoned by a shadowy apparition and wonder if a ghost or a deadly stranger is responsible. I also saw, when I was looking for covers for this, that books called Reinhardt the American Agatha Christie, which means I really got to read some of her work now. And for those who know that, evidently she also wrote the play The Bat, which I've mentioned in previous stuffs of the weeks. Okay, February 12th, and 1981. And Dracula's Bride has just come out in theaters. Judging by the cast list here, I thought this was just a re-release of Dracula Sucks, which was a film that was released in 1978 under a different title. Another alternate title I've heard bandied about is Lust at First Bite. However, according to the trivia page for this film at the IMDb, Dracula's Bride is a different movie from Dracula Sucks. This one constructed from separate footage that was shot by William Margold, and that the alternate title for the film was Lust at First Bite. Although, again, I've heard it cited as an alternate title for Dracula Sucks. My ill-informed guess is that this is the hardcore version, while Dracula Sucks may have been a softcore version. I don't know. I have not seen either version from beginning to end, but I do know that Reggie Nalder, the character actor who played Mr. Barlow in Salem's Lot, the Tobe Hooper miniseries, and was the henchman of Dracula's dog, was cast as Van Helsing in the film, and was mortified to learn that the scenes he had filmed for what he had thought was a softcore sex comedy was a hardcore pornographic feature. The one thing I do remember from the movie is a scene towards the end where Van Helsing, played by Nalder, is gathering together his vampire hunting tools and running out of a room, and overdubbed is a loudspeaker saying, "Attention, Professor Van Helsing, will you return the cross to the chapel? It is needed for services." The weird things that stick in our minds. All right, February 12th, 1928. And the H.C. Capwell Company, which would become known as just Capwell's, a big box store before big box stores, advertises that their book section has the novels The Golden Jubilee by Courtney Ryler Cooper and Red Rust by Cornelia James Cannon available for purchase at their bookshop on the mezzanine level. The former is set during the Colorado Gold Rush and actually seems to be titled, I did not make this enough, The Golden Bubble. Evidently, calling it Jubilee was a misprint in the paper because there is no title, The Golden Jubilee by Courtney Ryler Cooper, but there is The Golden Bubble. And the latter is Red Rust by Cordelia James Cannon, is a tale of pioneers in the great wheatlands of the Northwest United States. Now, February 13th, happy Friday the 13th. Jason's here. Jason's always here. In 1981, the Canucksploitation slasher craze cash-in and beloved minor cult classic, My Bloody Valentine, got a delightful 2-4 for this holiday-themed release, because just like today, Valentine's Day would fall on a Saturday in 1981, and which meant that the film opened on the very appropriate and somewhat ironic date of Friday the 13th. Appropriate because it's a horror movie. Ironic because this was the first in a series of holiday-themed films, or one of them, that followed the success of Halloween, that followed the success of Friday the 13th. And while it did okay, it didn't do well enough for there to be any sequels. But it made a profit, just not a huge profit. And legend has it that the film was butchered by the MPAA in order to get the studio-mandated R rating. But some, if not most, of that footage was discovered and restored by Scream Factory. So if you're interested, you can probably check it out on that Blu-ray. Watch the R-rated print and then watch the unrated print. See if you can check the differences. The last ad is February 13th from 1924, and this is for the March issue of Cosmopolitan, and which hypes the debut of Rex Beach's mystery story, Birds of Prey. It also explains to potential buyers why their magazine costs more than the average magazine. Beach was part of the silver medal winning water polo team at the 1904 Olympics, and he turned his observations of and failure at Alaskan gold prospecting into fodder for a very successful novel which was titled The Spoilers, which was published in 1906 and led to a successful and long-term career writing adventure stories and on some instances plays. Unfortunately, he took his life on December 7th, 1949. And according to the Wikipedia page, the home he had been living in at the time was remodeled in the year 2005, and they found a bullet lodged in the wall that is believed to be the bullet that took his life. And that's why I started with the newspaper ads, because I didn't want to end on that down note. But we're going to continue downer subject matter with the viewing I did this week, which is Dario Argento's The Stendahl Syndrome, which just might be Argento's darkest, bleakest feature film. Maybe. There are gaps in my Argento viewing, so he may have gone darker and bleaker. I don't know. It's hard to really see anything that would be darker and bleaker than this. But, and this is the first time I've watched it in almost 30 years. It's a very atypical film for Argento, in that it didn't really feature a lot of the visual flamboyance that had made him a prominent filmmaker in the 70s and the 80s. This is when he started transitioning into more of the character-based theatrics rather than camera-based theatrics. And they do mention that, which was shocking, that Asia Argento was 19 years old when she made this movie. So she's really kind of way too young to be playing a seasoned police detective. However, her performance is phenomenal in this movie, and is just, yeah. I was a 19-year-old gave this performance, and it's odd because, as I said in last week, I believe, about The Phantom of the Opera, Argento wasn't known as an actor's director. So seeing a performance this strong in one of his movies really just is a tribute to Asia's considerable talents as an actor. Also, this movie was so dark and bleak. I find it far less shocking that Argento chose to dial up the camp and the comedy aspects and the Phantom of the Opera, which was the movie he made after this one. But yeah, this is a rough go, but it's also really good. And I also found, because there were some essays, little booklet of essays, that evidently this was also Argento's top grossing film in Italy. This was his biggest hit. Although the movie did not make any kind of substantive release in the States. Yes, I know. I don't know. You probably just want treats or something. All right. Reading wise, I read the comic book adaptation of the Amicus production of Edgar Rice Burroughs' The Land That Time Forgot, which features some really great artwork by Sonny Trinidad, and is a fun adventure. I did a flip through, but I didn't do a commentary on it. about it. Also, I noticed that I was getting very tired of how, because the overhead crane I had was affixed to the puzzle table, so if I jostled the table or I did anything, it would flip and flutter or wobble. So I decided to get a new one that wasn't connected to the table, and that turned into a adventure or misadventure. But I finally got one, and more on that when I get to puzzles. But this also has an excellent essay by Lynn Carter about lost civilization stories. Although I did find Carter's ill-advised usage of the term race instead of civilization to be a tad grating. But good stuff, and I'm chuffed to have this in my collection. I'm really, really happy about it. All right, next up we have, I've been going through the Twilight Zone magazine, the June 1989 issue. I revisited Gahan Wilson's movie reviews. In this issue, he reviewed Scrooged, and which he liked. And let's see, where's the page 92? And he also reviewed They Live and Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Now, he was less charitable to They Live. He really slammed the third act of that movie. He mentions these endless, supposedly funny fight between Piper and his equally huge pal Keith David. Yes, Sam. Also, this was his review of Hellbound, Hellraiser 2, made me reevaluate the movie. I had seen it on the big screen, but he gave this really scathing commentary on it that I thought was like, this actually, I can see his point. The worst thing about the film, the really unforgivable bit, is what it does with the truly gruesome notion of the Cenobites, a race of absolutely horrid entities who can get into your world and or pull you into theirs, and whose whole sole purpose and delight in life is to hideously torture you with the absolute latest and most trendy S&M devices until you've been turned into dinky bits of gory flesh. Hellbound takes these hideous creatures and turns the concept around and, by God, actually sentimentalizes it, hard as that may be to believe, by revealing that they are not a ghastly, ghoulish race at all, but just a bunch of poor, misunderstood humans who made the perfectly understandable mistake of getting interested in those tricky little puzzle boxes. Poor dears. What with one thing leading to another, before they knew it, they were all looking ugly with all those nails in their faces and such like, and finding themselves torturing all those people. Not that they really wanted to do it deep down inside, of course, and really, isn't it a shame? And I was like, yeah, it's the same problem that I think befell Halloween 2, where it's like you introduce this theory of these supernatural entities, but they're not really evil, they're just misunderstood, and honestly, even more that, you can get over anything if you just go to therapy. And yeah, it kind of, reading that paragraph just really kind of took the wind out of the sails of Hellbound, Hellraiser 2. Let's see. Also, there was 2 articles about the audio fiction experience. One was about horror, and then the other was about science fiction. And there was also the final article, part 5, which was good because this was the last issue of the Twilight Zone, about Twilight Zone 3, which was J. Michael Straczynski's additional episodes that were shot for the syndicated version of the Twilight Zone. When when the relaunch of the mid '80s was sent to syndication, because the format of the show replicated the format of Night Gallery. In other words, they had stories of variety of lengths. So some would be 20 minutes, some would be 10 minutes, there'd be 40-minute and whatnot. So you would have to do some editing and whatnot. And they decided that they wanted to have some new episodes. And so Straczynski came up with some new episodes. Those episodes aired on Friday nights after 4 days of reruns, and I thought they were good. I do remember the last episode filmed, evidently, was the episode "Crazy as a Soup Sandwich," which entered production on December 12th, 1988, and was one of the most difficult, if not the most difficult episodes they shot. It's a pretty good episode. He also talked about, this is just basically a great little look at the production of The Twilight Zone. I'll come back to that in a minute. I finished Necroscope, Vampire, by Brian Lumley. And I really, as much as I loved or enjoyed the first Necroscope, because that one was so much fun. This one was considerably darker and a tad more somber than the first one. So the pulpy rush of delight that I felt while reading the last 50 to 100 pages of the book wasn't replicated here. But nonetheless, there were still an addictive number of scenes that involved monsters and vampires and animated corpses and all manner of psychic battles and even some spy-on-spy violence to just keep my interest until the end. And there was one really great scene in it. This one, I was just laughing because there was one of the guys in the one of the psychic spy guys, one of his powers is that he has a protective shield around him. It's kind of like, think Domino from the second Deadpool movie, where she just had luck. And luck's not a superpower. Oh, it is. And there's this great scene where the vampire's trying to get this guy, and he's just being guided around, and this guy's just being guided around by his power without really understanding it. And it's just, Lumley has a great deal of fun showing how these random things are helping him escape certain death. And that was the highlight comedically, or at least I got a good chuckle out of that scene. But I got the next book. I'm going to be reading that one for sure. Also, going back to the last thing I read this week from this issue of Twilight Zone was John Varley's short story, Just Another Perfect Day, the review of which went up at 5 p.m. on Friday. And I really liked it. It was reprinted in Lightspeed magazine, and I think I actually, if you go to the podcast, there might be a dramatic reading of it available as an audiobook. But I really enjoyed the story, and I envy people who go in and read it without knowing anything about it, because that's also just part of the theme of the story, because the lead character has a form of amnesia where he doesn't retain memories. So it leads to a very interesting narrative. It's a lot of fun. It's a good book, good story, and highly recommended. And it gets this issue off to a good start. The other reading I did was, or I started, the zombie film From White Zombie to World War Z, which is it's just basically Zombie Movie 101. It goes through and talks about the genesis of the mythology and the acknowledged first zombie movie, which was White Zombie, and gives us some interesting history. And as you can see, it also has some, great. Zombie illustrations. That's Night of the Seagulls, and one of my favorite Romero movies, Day of the Dead. So and I'm enjoying it. I'm in the second part of I'm in the third or fourth chapter, which is just before Romero makes Night of the Living Dead. So we're going to be talking about some Hammer movies. One of my personal favorites is The Plague of the Zombies, which is a really great Hammer picture from 1966, I think it was. All right, no soundtracks were added to the collection this week, but as I said, I had a delay in starting the new puzzle, which was Braun Castle, which I'm working on right now, which I bought at Braun Castle in Romania during our Halloween trip last year. And having fun with this one. The puzzle assembly videos will probably be posted on Mondays at 5 a.m. If I do reviews or trail cam footage and whatnot, it'll go up at 5 a.m. or 5 p.m. Trying to just keep a schedule where I don't become obsessed with making videos or get too hyper focused on things, and just basically go along and keep this journal of the week-to-week activities and things and sharing the things that I do and enjoy. Well, that's it. Oh, the Twilight Zone magazine, the book review column, Ed Bryant was the reviewer, and he did a pretty good review. He gave a good review for Clive Barker's anthology, Cable, which became Nightbreed, but more on that next week. And let's see, what else was... He also did a review of Frenzy by Rex Miller, which is one of the few books by Miller I read. But, yeah, kind of running out of gas here. So, until next time, take care of yourselves, okay? Bye.